And welcome to the What the Shuck podcast. The goal of the What the Shuck podcast is to provide a platform to positive and influential people from Kentucky and Appalachia. Rather, it's through their influence of music, art, business, or in the case today, media. Essentially, the goal is to just provide a platform to people that are trying to flip the script that says Kentucky and Appalachia is a problem, and making it be a solution to a lot of things that we're facing today. So my next guest is Amber Philpott. She is an award-winning news anchor with WKYT in Lexington, Kentucky. She is from Central Kentucky, and she's from, she's from Cynthiana, Kentucky, and she is a co-anchor on WKYT at 4, 4:30, 5, 5:36, and 11. And she graduated from Morehead State University. She began her broadcasting career shortly after graduation at WYMT in Hazard. And while she served there as a reporter and co-anchor for Mountain News in the morning, she came to WKYT in 2004 and most recently was named the 2013 Best Newscaster in Kentucky by the Associated Press, an award she also won in 2009. She's been part of several award-winning newscasts and has been nominated for 2 regional Emmy Awards, so congrats on that. And Amber is living out her dream, which, as we know, is a huge part of the What the Shuck podcast. This is something that she has been wanting to do most of her life, and her parents said she had the gift of gab, which she's obviously taking advantage of. But a huge reason also why I'm bringing Amber on is not just because of her talent that she has for media, but because of her relentless heart to be a servant to her community. She has done work with the American Red Cross, and she served as an annual chair member for their Disaster Blaster event, raising thousands of dollars for relief efforts. She's worked closely with the American Diabetes Association, which also is a huge goal that we want to help with. The reason that I literally know Amber is because my house got hit by a tornado in 2012, and she interviewed my mom, and we got close because of that. And I'm so blessed to have her on this podcast today because I've been on hers, but I haven't had a chance to have her on mine. But I'm so excited because she has given me such a platform to the point to where I've started a nonprofit. And so the things that she's really dedicated to are things that really hold dear to my heart. And so without further ado, Miss Amber Philpott, thank you so much for coming on.
It's so good to see you. It feels like forever ago when I had you on my podcast, Uniquely Kentucky. I mean, we've been saying we're going to do this forever, so I'm glad that we're finally doing this. And thank you for all of that. That's not necessary, but the part about being a servant is what I love the most. I do enjoy what I get to do every single day, but telling stories and serving others is a big part of what I do.
And what's crazy is today the news just came out that the FDA did approve the Pfizer vaccine. And when we actually had when I was on your podcast, Uniquely Kentucky, if you remember, that was the day that they announced that they had a vaccine officially. So I guess that days that we talk are important for health in America.
Let's hope so, right? Let's hope so.
So that's kind of cool to see that happen. And obviously that's a huge platform I'm sure you've been covering that all day. Mm-hmm. But the things I really am excited to talk about are, we talked before this, obviously, you work out, you love running, you love music, and also we even talked about some books. So if you want to talk about some of the books you've been reading, I think this would be a great time to kind of talk about some of the Kentucky artists or authors you've been reading to kind of get a feel of why you are the way that you are. You told me you're a self-proclaimed bookworm. So obviously reading is very important, which is very important for what you do because you want to be educated. So tell us about some of the stuff that you've been reading lately.
So first of all, I should say there are 3 things about Amber Philpott that you might not get from me when you're just watching me every day on the TV. So like the 3 big loves of my life, other than my husband and my family. Outside of that, I am a workout junkie. I am a bookworm, and I am a music nut. I love live music. So those are like the 3 things that keep me sane outside of my crazy life and crazy crazy busy schedule that I sometimes have, but I do love to read. It's funny, I'm on television, so I don't watch a lot of television. Probably COVID helped me watch more than I've ever watched in my whole life, just because that's what we had to do. But I do read. I read every single night when I go home from work. It's just what allows me to sort of like wind down from the day. I leave work at 11:30, 5, and I'm home by midnight. And so that's just what really lets my brain shut down. But as a child, I loved books. So from an Appalachian standpoint, there's a wonderful author, Georgia Ella Lyon, that really kind of just spoke to me when I was a child. And her book is Come a Tide, and it's about a flood in eastern Kentucky. And obviously we know that it can flood a lot in eastern Kentucky, but it's just this wonderful human book written for children about eastern Kentucky, about Appalachia. So that just spoke to me. And it's so amazing that all of these years later, I'm 40 now, that a book I was reading as a child speaks a lot to me still, because my heart truly is in Appalachia for a lot of different reasons in eastern Kentucky. But then I'm a huge Silas House author. And if you've never read Silas House, his books are just something to be appreciated. It's art.
Sure, I definitely agree.
It's art on pages inside to flaps, it's beautiful. So Silas House is my favorite. And then there's another author, Kim Richardson. A lot of people probably know her from the book Woman of Troublesome Creek. And it's about eastern Kentucky, and it's about the librarians that would go by horseback throughout eastern Kentucky and throughout the mountains to make sure that people living in places that were, up in the mountains, in the hollers, that they had books brought to them. And as a bookworm, that is amazing. I think, man, if I were in the olden days, that would have been me, to be able to bring literature to people. So those are my three kind of books. I could go on and on, Austin, about books, but, and then you asked me about music, and it's really hard to narrow down. When you say you're a Kentucky artist, I'm like, do they have to be alive?
Could they be Keith Whitley?
So at the top of my list is always going to be Keith Whitley. At the top of my list will always be Keith Whitley. Just for so many reasons that we don't have enough time to talk about in this podcast. But I'm a huge lover of live music. So to be able to get back to live music has been amazing this summer. So I may or may not have seen Sunday Best twice already this summer. I've seen them a million times in the Redmonds, where they got their start. I've seen them in lots of places, but I saw them twice this summer in Floyd County in Archer Park. And there's something really special about that. Guys that got their start right there, and to be able to be there and hear Mountain Parkway and some other songs right there in their home city, man, there's nothing like it. I also am a huge Exile fan. Like, you give me some Exile and I will go nuts all day long. So I love me some Exile. And I'm a huge fan and a big supporter right now of a young man out of Wolfe County, Tyler Booth. He kind of has a real roundabout way of getting music started, but he went to Morehead State for a little bit, and then some folks at Sony got him hooked up with a really great writer, and he's now signed by Sony, and he's out touring right now. We saw him earlier this summer over in Bath County, and just doing great things, just a good kid doing great things. And then if I have to round out my list, I'm always going to put John Michael Montgomery on there.
So that's great, a great list. I would have to say I'm a little bit more mainstream. Mine is definitely Sturgill Simpson. That was what brought the whole question on. I love that guy. He's not loved by everybody. He's a very different style. He's definitely not pop music, so I can see why someone maybe would be like, I don't like him that much, or maybe I could see why someone would be like, I'm absolutely infatuated with this man. And then for me, probably after that, it's probably like got to be Chris Stapleton and Tyler Childers. I don't count out Keith Whitley. That's like one that's so hard for me to not be like, oh, absolutely is in my top three. But we just have so much talent. Leah Blevins just recently released an album. There's a lady named Sierra Faulkner. She's going to be at Railbird this weekend. She's actually from West Virginia, but she just released an album. She's insanely talented too, even though she's not from Kentucky, but from Appalachia. But it's just really cool to see all of the really just abundance of talents that we have. You talked about Sunday Best. I'm very close with Nicholas and Christopher. Those not only are insanely talented humans, but insanely giving and loving humans. So
it really runs the gamut of people that we could talk about, right? Like so many different like genres of music that we could talk about. I mean, we're talking literally like bluegrass, folk, and like country, you know, but we could talk about like so many.
So we were talking about music.
Brief pause.
We were talking about books. But what I really want to talk to you about is the philanthropy work that you do. I think it's so cool that you are in media and that you're a newscaster and that you aren't just some mouthpiece for propaganda. You are literally like the person that says, hey, this is what my agenda is and this is what I want to talk about, and you go do that. And that's why you've won Newscaster of the Year 2 times. That's why you have been Emmy nominated. And it's because you're doing stuff that you genuinely enjoy and you want to do. So tell us a little bit about like what it means to you to be able to use your platform to actually help people.
Yeah, you know, Austin, I got into this business strictly because I love telling people's stories. I love that you can give a voice to someone who may not know they have a voice. They may not know how to use their voice. And that can come in a lot of different ways, right? You know, that can come through investigative journalism and getting to the bottom of something, which is not really what I do, but it can also come in other forms of just giving people a space to tell their story. And if that story inspires someone else, if that story reminds someone to go get checked, for years, I spent a lot of my time and a lot of my work strictly on breast cancer. And I always said that if one person went and got a mammogram that they had not done because of our story, then that was a win, right? And I did that one year. We had a mobile unit that I helped bring to the station, and we had a lady that drove up from Eastern Kentucky, from Rockcastle County, who had not had a mammogram in years and had put it off. And so, you know, if that saved her life, then we've done our job. And so I just really love that. And I can tell you that what we do here, there is no agenda, right? We don't sit down every single day and go, okay, how do we, you know, do this, that, or the other? We don't do that. We just bring you the news, the facts that go with that. And we try to keep our opinion out of it. And I think we do that. And I hope people think that we do that. But when it comes to the stories that I get to tell, after 18 years in the news business, I'm at a point in my career where I'm afforded the opportunity to be able to pick and choose stories, right? And so I spend a lot of my time looking for people that have, you know, had something in their life they had to overcome. They want to tell their story because maybe they had a medical diagnosis that they don't want anyone else to have to go through, right? Or it's the stories on the ground of people who are just going through everyday things. So that's the great part of what I get to do. I get to circulate in a team of, there's 4 of us where we do special projects. And that is what myself and my co-anchor Sam love. We aren't just people that sit behind a desk. We love to be out away from the newsroom. And I spent a lot of my career also out field anchoring, where, you know, you're meeting the people that you serve every single day. And I truly think that's how I built my career, is serving people in that way. And also, Austin, in the philanthropy side of just getting out and doing work for other people. I love being able to lend my name and whatever that might give you to your organization. And over the years, I've just poured my soul into that and my heart into that. I have a servant's heart. My parents taught me that. And so I just think that I've been afforded a lot of opportunities as a gal from Cynthiana, that if I can do anything to make one person's life a little bit better through the work that I can do, then I'm going to do it.
And I definitely think that you are a great example of that. You use your platform to really, really lift people up and to tell stories that we live in an area where media literacy and where media opportunities aren't necessarily there. So it's really important that we have people like you to do the things that you do. And you inspire me constantly. I have a podcast, so obviously, like, there's been major influences, and I see what you've done, and I'm like, this lady went to Morehead State and is doing things that she always wanted to do. And it's like, if she can come to a college where people from my area can go to and can make her dreams happen, then anybody can. And it's like, that's such an inspiring thing to see people use what they love and to use that to inspire other people. So you constantly inspire me with all the stories that you talk about and just lifting people up and using your voice to make a bigger and better community. Because if there's one thing that I know is that we move faster and we move better together. And it's like, if we come united on a front, then we can make a lot of stuff happen. And you constantly use your voice to do that. I think that that's really tough because in today's society, it's easy to say the wrong things. And I've never heard you say the wrong things. You are so thoughtful, and the things that you say to people, it really brings value to their lives. And I really appreciate you.
Well, it is a big responsibility, and I think all of us are human, and you know, things can happen. And I'm not here to say that I'm perfect by any means. I mean, I struggle as a human every single day, but I can tell you that I know that I wouldn't be in the job that I am if I didn't have the viewers that are very loyal to us every single day. And so one of the things that I think that I didn't know this starting in the business as a young reporter, but it's grown over the years. You realize how valuable those people are, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? You know, I have a lot of people that they want to tell me what they don't like or what they don't like about the station. And that's okay too. I get that. And I'm happy to listen to that. I just think that it's really important that you meet people where they are. And I will never miss an opportunity to stop and talk with someone if I can. If I'm just at the grocery store or if I'm at a concert in, Prestonsburg, like if someone recognizes me, that's just a big deal to me because I worked really hard and I don't see myself as somebody that somebody looks up to. I'm very thankful for that, but it means a lot to me. And so I don't miss a lot of opportunity to meet people where they are. And I always try to ask people their name and, ask them where they're from and chat. I have far more people still. I've been away from Eastern Kentucky. I spent 15 months in Hazard at WYMT, and I still get people that say, I remember watching you, or, now kids say, I remember watching you when you were on the morning news. And so I hope people know that I'm super genuine when I say that means the world to me. This business is hard. So a lot of days on my hard days, I think about those people because over 18 years, I've gotten to meet so many amazing people that have taught me a lot and have given me a lot because they choose to tune in every single night and they feel like we're family. And I feel so fortunate for that.
And your podcast is called Uniquely Kentucky. There's just something different here. It's just a place unlike any other. I constantly say it's underselling Kentucky, which is not something I do very often, but I'm like, if we had an ocean, we would be the best place in the world. And I always say that. I live by that statement. It's nothing to do with us not being the best, but because the people here truly are the best. And that's what makes it feel so much like home.
Yep.
Is no matter, I can't remember that quote, but it's Kentuckians always either trying to I can't remember. It's something about going home. And it's so true. It's
I think Kentucky captures your heart for a lot of reasons. And I think it captures a lot of people's hearts that didn't intend to stay in Kentucky, right? Mm-hmm. But I think, too, and I think one of the things I can think of as a reason why you and I met, as you said earlier, is that, your family lost their home in the March tornado. That was just one of those stories where until you're there and your boots on the ground with people, you don't really realize how devastating it is. And I take a great responsibility in that is people's worst moment, right? That was your family's worst moment. But then to be afforded the opportunity to come back years later and to check on your family and just to show people and tell your story, that means the world, and I don't know that people, I think they think that we as reporters and journalists, we just want to get the story. Not for me. I take everything so to heart that your family opened their doors and let me come in and look at some of their prized, possessions that they got to save. And I think that says a lot about Kentucky too, because I remember in that moment how Kentuckians always come together. Mm-hmm. And in my 18 years, I've seen a lot of that. And also with that being said, that spending time in Hazard when I first started, a lot of people said to me, oh my gosh, you're going to Eastern Kentucky. There's nothing there. And I am really quick to say, it's Kentucky. Like there's always something there, right? And for a kid from Cynthiana, Hazard had a few things more than Cynthiana did in terms of places to eat, and they had a J.C. Penney's, which I thought was a big deal. But what I say is there are great people everywhere, and there are great things happening everywhere. There's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of stigma that's still placed on that. But what I can honestly say over my years of doing this is great people are doing great things. And I feel it. I feel it like the last probably 5 or 6 years, there's just this buzz, there's this energy that's moving through all parts of Eastern Kentucky, that you just feel it. Like the gears are moving, and it's just like any minute something big's going to explode in a good way, right? And that's a bad, you shouldn't say explosion when you're talking about, but I also think too, the other thing in a weird transition is that COVID was so hard on a lot of people and it kept us all apart, but there's also a lot of small businesses that I think COVID has allowed them to like reach the world, right? They realize that through the World Wide Web and the interwebs, you can find anyone. And so I really love to see small businesses that have really reached out, and now somebody in Lexington might buy something from a boutique in Whitesburg. That's a boutique that I know that's there that I've watched kind of do this. And that thing excites me. That really excites me when I see people doing that.
I mean, whether it's a boutique in Whitesburg or a publicly traded company in Morehead, or a brewery in there's a brewery in Morehead and Pikeville now. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, to talk a little bit more about the people facing natural disasters and how we met, you actually helped me get some coverage for the event that we did in March, and we're about to present that family with the money we raised. I've had to jump through a million hoops, especially with COVID, to get my RS legitimate, like to make my nonprofit legitimate, so I can really make a massive impact, not just like, hey, can I get a $10 donation?
And that is hard work, and that's no joke. And I know that putting a 501(c) together is no joke. So kudos to you for getting through it. It is hard work.
There are things that I'm like, I don't know. I didn't go to school. I don't learn how to do this. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm like, but I know that it's worth it. Like, there's so many times when, like you said, you saw a family that opened their doors up and allowed you to come in. But the thing is like, there are so many families that are dealing with stuff like that. And I mean, there was just a really bad flood in near Nashville. And it's like, so someone reached out to me and was like, hey, can you help us do something? And it's like, to me, that means a lot. That means that what I've done with my mission and what you've helped to provide a platform to has made an impact. Like, it means that people notice, like, hey, this guy can help people. And it's like, I mean, I'm giving a $5,000 check to a family. I don't think that that's going to replace anything as someone who's lost a lot. But it's like when someone's willing to do, like, to go and be like, hey, we're going to throw an event and then help your family out. Like, just mentally knowing that people, like I said, $5,000, that's not going to bring anything back that you lost, that all the prized possessions, the family hand-me-downs, things like that. But just knowing that we still have family and we still have a greater community, and that no matter what we go through, we can make it. That's why I love what you do. That's what brings me so much just inspiration. Like I said, I wouldn't have been able to do this without you. So like, it's really cool to see that go full circle, and kind of just you coming to my family and being like, hey, like, I see that you've been through something tragic and I see that you have a great story. Like, let's talk about it. And then you giving me an opportunity. Once I went through something bad because of that, I never reached out for help. It was like, hey, mentally, like, I should have asked for help. And it put me in a really dark place. But now today, my hopes are that by me helping someone in my organization, Appalachian Pioneer Program, is that someone else doesn't have to go through that. And that's the goal. We're doing a huge event coming up. Hopefully you can help me do some awareness for that. But we're going to be walking from Slade to Inez.
That's awesome.
Martin County, Kentucky hasn't had clean water essentially since 2000. Everyone's talking about the withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan that was in 2001, and I'm like, you want to hear something crazier? This has been going on 1 year longer, and it's like people are like, wait, what? There's been a community in Kentucky that hasn't had clean water since 2000, and it's crazy to talk about that because most people don't know this, but Massey Energy was only fined $5,600 for that. And it's like they pumped 300 million gallons of arsenic and lead into the water source of that community. And so people were like, you're an idiot. Why would you walk 84 miles? And it's like, well, what did you just ask me after that? Like, why are you walking 84 miles? And it's like, well, the whole point is for me to do something idiotic, essentially, to bring awareness, because sometimes you have to do something really crazy to be like, hey, like, let's talk about this. And what you do, like, literally helps save people. Like, you might not know it, but you've technically saved lives, so I appreciate you for that.
Well,
so you're awesome.
I think it comes with the territory of just that when you do get to have a platform, you should use it. And I do think that I've also been, I couldn't say any of this without working for an amazing company in WKYT that has a very long, a very rich history of serving our community, serving the folks that count on us every single day. And so I can honestly say that I work in a place where I've come to them with some really crazy ideas about things that I want to do, or we just want to serve a little extra. And I've, you know, most of the time they've always said, go do whatever. And so, or, you know, if I say like, I need to go MC this for this organization, can we get some coverage on this? You know, I've just really been afforded a great opportunity to be able to do that. And I think it's just really important. And, you know, Austin, sometimes the craziest idea does sound crazy in the moment. But then again, some of the craziest ideas ever, you know, we might not have some of the things that we have if someone didn't think, you know, big. And I just think that you have to think big. I always say you have to dream big and have the willingness and courage to make those dreams come true. And so if you think small, it's going to be small. But if you think big, I mean, the world is your oyster. So I just think that there are a lot of people that appreciate that people take the time to even realize the situation that they're in. In my job, I see some people on their worst day, and they don't want a camera in their face and they don't want news coverage, right? So it's a very humbling job in that regard. But it's even more rewarding if you give people space and then you come back and you check on them. And I think in the case of what you're talking about with the water situation, a lot of people have tried to hit on it, and a lot of people have been trying to fill those gaps and do their part. It's just a conversation that's got to continue to be had. Maybe one person isn't going to solve it, but a lot of people doing a lot of different things certainly brings people to the table in the conversation. And I think that's important in anything that needs, you know, addressing, if you will.
And sometimes that's the biggest thing, is just providing a platform to somebody to have a voice. It might not be the most it might be a very taboo idea, like you said. Right. But when you bring it to light, maybe people are like, whoa, like, how did we not know about this? And
sure.
One of my favorite quotes is like, even under the superior will, even gravity can be broken. And that's like the number one law that we know in the world. Like, there's not a law that we know more than gravity. And it's like, even rockets can go to outer space. So like, even that can be broken. And it's like, it's up to us. We got to have that superior will of just saying, I'm indomitable. And no matter what happens, the circumstance, I can get up and get better from it. And you constantly provide that. You show people, your story obviously is great, but you allow people to tell their story and be like, hey, I did go through this horrible thing. And then you do the full circle opportunity. But I've had you on for a while. I don't want to keep you too long because I know that you are working. I do want to bring up
the mess up, so let's go a little longer because I have like technical difficulties. So.
I definitely want to bring up this book because you were talking about your bookworm. It's called Uneven Ground, Appalachia Since 1945. It's by Ronald Eller. He is one of the top political science teachers at UK, if I'm not mistaken. He was just introduced to the 2020 class of science and like policy or something at UK. So this book is essentially a textbook, and it's the history of Appalachia since 1945. I'm like 50 pages in, and there's stuff that really will like make you be like, oh my gosh, like I'm so mad right now. Because it's just talking about how society has came to this area that's so beautiful and so rich with resources and culture, And it literally breaks down from the time that we returned from World War II until today. And it's just very interesting to see how people have, for a very long time, been taking advantage of us. And it's really sad, but it also paints a picture of, like, while we are so culturally rich and while we do have the ideas that we have, and that it's okay to talk the way that we talk, kind of how Silas House talks. And it's just like, don't mask who you are in your culture because of this mass stigma that we're a bunch of hillbillies. And it's up to us. And this book, it actually talks about how that stigma came about, because in the 60s, from 1945 until 1965, there were 3 million people who left Appalachia to go to like trade towns in the Midwest. And when those people would go there and have their banjos and have their accents and wear their overalls, people would literally be like, what is happening right now? And so that's why they call us hillbillies, which is interesting. But
well, I tell people all the time, if you haven't been to Eastern Kentucky, if you've never been, shame on you, you should go, because you're missing out on an opportunity of amazing, beautiful just areas, like, so that in itself. But I also think that people are really, I think people would be shocked. I mean, I can even say for Morehead, just the Morehead that I knew in college from 99 to 2003 is a very different Morehead now. And there's so many people that have invested, young people that have invested, and they want to be there and they want to see areas grow. I also tell people, again, Pikeville is another great example. If you have not been to Pikeville recently, I mean, it's just really remarkable. And so again, I get really jazzed about that kind of thing. And I realize, because I guess I'm at that age now where people my age and younger, it is us. You know, we need to be the people that now pick up and do those things in our community and want to be invested in our communities, wherever your community is, Eastern Kentucky, Central Kentucky, far Western Kentucky. You should want to be invested from where you're from. And I just always say, if you've not been back, you're really missing out on an opportunity to not only see some gorgeous places, but also just really experience some really cool, innovative things that people are trying to do there.
And something that's scaring a lot of people right now about Eastern Kentucky is the development that's going to be happening at the Gorge. I'm not sure if you're that familiar with that, but it's an interesting dilemma to be in, because you obviously would like to bring a commerce like that to the area. But as someone who's really into conservation, I'm really worried that even with what we're dealing with at the moment, it's really hard to keep conservation going in that area. And it's like, what happens when there's a massive resort there? And so a lot of people are bringing up, hey, like, maybe we should move this not to the Gorge. We should use the Gorge as a part of it. But, like, what if we put this down the road a little bit and help to make a more diverse economy in another area? Because the Gorge already has a commerce that a lot of areas don't. There's tons of great restaurants there. They just had the Red River Gorge, like, Natural Bridge Music Festival. That was so fun. That was one of the best music festivals I've been to this year. The lineup was absolutely insane. And it's just interesting to see where that's going to go. Because, like I said, obviously the progressive in me wants to be like, all right, let's bring more jobs. Let's bring more commerce. Let's add some better education. Let's add better commerce. But then, does it take away from the beauty of the area? Do we lose some of that natural beauty? So do you want to talk about that at all, or
it's the age-old question, right? Of like, how do we grow, but how do we preserve too? I don't know those answers. I'm not going to claim to know those, but it is an age-old question of how we expand on this beautiful area that we have to literally show the world. But then how do we preserve it at the same? I get that. I don't know. I'm excited to see the possibility. I understand, the concern, certainly. Yeah. We've done a couple of stories on it. So it will be interesting to see what kind of fleshes out. But yeah, it's certainly an untapped market, if you will. But then again, on the flip side, as you said, Austin, there's already so many great things there. So that one will be an interesting one. But I'm torn with you, kind of the same way. You don't want to see something that's so beautiful messed up, but you also want to see something grow and be able to like open it up to the world. So I don't know. That's not a great answer, but
no, I mean, that's
curious to see what happens.
that's the thing. That's where I sit, is just like, that's why we need to talk about it more. Because it's just, that's the thing with today's society that's so confusing to me, is like, sometimes someone's going to have the wrong answer. But I've seen so many examples where people will just like send a DM and be like, "You idiot, like, why would you think about it?" It's like, well, that's not going to help me come to this new understanding of that. Actually, it scolds me, like, makes me be like resentful. And the thing, and just, it's so important. That's why I think podcasts are so important. This long form type of conversation provides more opportunities that people have. Hey, like, maybe you don't agree with this like I do, or maybe you do agree with this like I do, and maybe you can present an opportunity or an idea that I don't. And both of us obviously are sitting in the middle, so we need more information. But it's interesting to definitely see where that's going to go. It's scary and also kind of cool at the same time, because
I think that's part
we want it to do well.
The reason why I love my job is what we're talking about, is just learning from people, right? It's just learning anything, it's just listening to people, being able to listen to people and learning from people on all kinds of subjects, that you're talking about, from the gorge to, how do we fix a water problem that's ongoing and stuff. I mean, it's just great to learn and listen and kind of soak that in from people and then see where you take it.
Mm-hmm. And, last thing I want to ask you, well, I got two more questions. Sure. Are you going to Railbird this weekend?
I'm not going to Railbird. I know. We didn't pull, I know, I'm a bad Kentuckian, Central Kentucky. We didn't pull the trigger. We had been gone last weekend. We knew we were going to be gone. And so I know this is probably like very controversial. Like, I don't love like Dave Matthews Band, but I appreciate Dave Matthews Band. Like, a lot of my friends are like, we can't talk to you, right? But I also, again, I just appreciate music in general. So I'm not. So if that gets me kicked off the podcast, then sorry.
It's not going to, I promise. I actually am in the same mindset. I'm definitely way more hyped for day one. And what's weird is, like, the people not from the most of the people not from Kentucky that I know that are coming are like, what? Like, you're not excited for day two? Dave Matthews and Jason Isbell? And I'm like, I mean, for me, day one, the Burl stage is incredible. It has Nicholas Jamerson. It has Magnolia Boulevard. It has Sierra Faulkner, the lady I was talking about earlier. I am excited to watch Grayson the next day. I
should have put Grayson on my list. I'm so sorry, Grayson Jenkins, out there in the world. I didn't put you on my list, but I do love you, and you know that.
But I'm really excited to see all these people get an opportunity to play with people like Dave Matthews. But I'm definitely more excited to see Leon Bridges, and I'm really sad that Colter Wall actually didn't get to come. He lives in Canada, though, so they're a little like, hey, you can't leave this country anymore. So he was like, I guess I can't come to Kentucky, and I'm pretty sad about it. But they did get Robert Earl Keane, and then also someone else to replace the two artists that they lost. So at least they found an additional artist. I was hoping it would be Sturgill Simpson and Tyler Childers, my selfish Kentuckian in me.
Sure.
Hopefully, honestly, for me, I'm like, why is it not Sturgill Simpson, Tyler Childers, Chris Stapleton, and like Cole Chaney, Clark Sexton, all the like Kentucky people. I'm not hating on the Railbird, but like, come on.
Well, that means that Austin Shuck is just going to have to put his own musical lineup together and do his own. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me.
I feel like they have a little bit more funding than me, Amber, but I hope that one day I can make that a reality.
Remember,
that is
you
the
have
goal.
To dream to dream big. So,
True. And I completely appreciate that you always have that mindset. And since we're going to close out right now, something I always like to ask before we get off is, what is like the overall impact that you hope to make with your platform? Obviously, we've talked a lot about it, but like by the time that you say, all right, I'm retiring, I'm doing my own thing, I'm just going to go travel the world with my husband, do our own thing, read books, run. What are you trying to do with your platform before then?
That is a really wide open question. And I'll be honest, Austin, as I said a couple of times, this July was my 18th news year in the business. And that's really hard for me to think about sometimes, because there are literal days that it feels like I was a brand new 20 21, 22-year-old kid showing up in Hazard. And then there are days that I really feel 40 and that I've been in this business 18 years. So, I can finally, I think for the first time in my career, and this is an honest statement, within the last maybe 3 years, I can even stop and think about things like that, because I spent a lot of my career just sort of like, I'm a trial by fire kind of person. Like, you just jump in both feet, you have no idea what you're doing, and you just learn as you go, and you learn every single day what you didn't like and what you want to do better, and you do it. And so I guess I'm just at that point that I want to think about that. And I think for me, I really just want to be somebody that people trusted. I want to be somebody that when they met me in person, if it was me sitting down across your living room, in your living room to do a story, that I made you feel comfortable. I made you feel like you mattered. And that is really it. You've read some accolades that I've been, nominated for an Emmy and I've won this or that. Those, I'm very appreciative of those, but I don't get super hyped about those, because I think every day you should come in and do an award-winning job every single day. That's just my mindset. I think that you should work hard and play hard. That's what my motto has always been. And I also have always lived by the motto that no one was going to outwork me, that I was always going to put my nose to the grindstone, and that I might not be the best reporter. I might not be the best anchor, but I can honestly say that I got to where I was because no one outworked me, and I could have that at the top of the list. So those are my things. I guess at the end of the day, I just want to know that people knew that I was a normal person that cared about them, that cared about Central Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky, and that when I sign on with you to do something, whether it's just MC something, or if you want me to help you raise some money for your organization and I signed on to do that, that you're going to get all of me and the whole of me, because I just believe that we're better together. So I don't know. I'm going to have to tailor that down to a really nice statement, but that's I'm getting there. That's what I hope, I guess, if that makes sense.
Well, I think that what you have done so far has been excellent work. Like we said, you have accolades, but the reason that I love you so much is because of the work you do for your community. Even if you didn't have any award nominations, I would still think you do incredible work, because you do truly make a massive impact in your community. I can't think of, there's probably 10 events I can think of before I met you that I can think of that you've made a massive impact with your platform. And it's just constantly giving people that attention that need it in this area. Like I said, we have such a lack of media presence, and you go above and beyond to just, even when I just have a casual text with you, I get giddy, because I'm like, this person just loves life so much and just being fun and awesome. And like you said, we're humans, we make mistakes, we mess up, but I 100% don't think you mess up with your effort. Every time I grumble
a lot. There's a lot of stuff I grumble about. I mean, my husband will tell you I grumble, so I don't wake up sometimes on the nice side, of the bed. But I do try to look at that. Life is really precious, and I think in the business that I work, I realize that life is really precious for people, and so, if you can just be there for a moment for people. And, I think sometimes, it means the world to me to know that, that I've given you something that I never knew. Those are things that I hope I'll never know, but I hope that there are things like that all over the place that I've been able to sprinkle, and somebody feels that way just like you feel, because that would really seal the deal at the end of the day when I say news is done. So.
Well, Amber, obviously you're on the news a lot. Where can everyone see you, for our listeners that haven't watched WKYT's award-winning coverage?
So I'm there every afternoon, 4, 4:30, 5, 5:36. Today I happened to do the 6:30 because Sam was off. And then the 11. You can look me up on any social media. I'm on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. I'm not great at Twitter, but you can find me there. I do have a podcast, Uniquely Kentucky. It's sort of on pause hiatus right now. There's just a lot going on in the world and a lot of stories to be done. So that was kind of just a thing that I wanted to do. So, and if I could make a shameless plug, we're getting ready to roll out something that I've had on my heart for a really long time. We're calling it Commonwealth of Kindness. And so they're the stories about people that are just doing great things for their neighbors, much like you do, Austin, for your community and the people that you serve. We're just looking for those people. And so we've got an email address set up. It's kindness@wkyt.com. And we're just going to start asking people to send us in what people are doing in your community. It could be young, old, it could be for animals, it could be anything. And we just want to highlight that because we realize it's been a really rough 17, 18 months. And we're still in the thick of it. And so this has been on my heart for a really long time. So I'm trying to spearhead this effort here at the station. And we're going to roll it out later in September, but we're kind of just putting it out there right now. And we just think that people deserve the recognition for the small acts of kindness, the random acts of kindness, the things that touch people's hearts. So that's my next venture. So I'm going to kind of put Uniquely Kentucky on the shelf for a minute and focus on this and let it roll out and see what we can do with it.
I find zero shame in that plug. That made me actually very emotional. And I think that's why I appreciate you so much, is because you do care about the little person so much and giving them a voice. And that's what having a media platform is all about. You use this better than you. You are the epitome of media literacy, if you ask me. You obviously learned a lot from your educators at Morehead and have learned a lot in the field, being on their boots on the ground, as you said. And I appreciate you so much. Thank you for coming on. And I hope that everybody has enjoyed this. Sorry about the technical difficulties. This was my first time doing a podcast on this, so I will take blame for that.
Me too.
But Amber, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, buddy. Anytime. If I were there, I'd give you a big hug in person.
I appreciate that. I'm sad that you're not going for Railbird, but I'm sure we'll see each other at a show soon.
You sing your lungs out for me, okay?
I will. All right. Thank you all so much, and I hope you'll have a great day. And make sure you subscribe to What the Shuck podcast. Make sure you go subscribe to the Uniquely Kentucky podcast, and then also check out the new thing that she's going to be working on. What was that again?
Commonwealth of Kindness.
Commonwealth of Kindness. We have to promote this. I'll be screaming this. Zero shame. You have zero shame for plugging that. I'll be screaming it at the top of my What the Shuck lungs. But I thank you so much, Amber.
Absolutely, buddy. See ya.